I am humbled, but I am proud. I'm proud to be here in this place, and I'm grateful for words of unity from Senator Dole that comes at a timely moment when we all have to remember that we are working towards the same goals for the same country. And it's times like this that remind me of that, so I'm grateful for that. But I'm grateful for the work that the foundation does every day, in and out, for our nation's caregivers, our wounded troops and veterans and their families. It's been so meaningful to partner with this foundation on these issues that we're all so passionate about. I also have to recognize, of course, Senator Bob Dole for his remarkable service to our country and to all those here. Absolutely. Now I have to share something with you backstage. Everyone is offering me a seat. And I'm like, well, if Senators Dole and Dole aren't sitting, then I certainly am not going to sit. I mean, these two are tireless. And they show us what service is really about. Truly, truly. And of course, to all of those here tonight who have served our nation in uniform, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And to my dear friend Tom Hanks, I'm glad it's the Tom Hanks Award. We should all figure out what the typewriter's about, because that's a whole story. But I have to thank Tom for his kind words, for his friendship. Both Rita and Tom have been true supporters, and they serve as amazing examples of what it means to be committed. Tom has always been known as someone who knows how to use his platform for good, and he's left his mark on so many important causes, from supporting our veterans and military families to lifting up our space program. Now, when you get an asteroid named after you, like Tom did, now that's doing something. So receiving an award in Tom's name is a deeply humbling experience. And then to be honored within this community of caregivers and veterans and their families, for me is truly overwhelming. But I have to be honest that I'm a little embarrassed to be up here receiving an award on my own, when the truth is that there's no way you get this work done on your own. I was blessed to have an extraordinary team who kept pushing and working hard every single day, putting in the long nights and answering all sorts of questions from me, who was learning about the issue. Honestly, I feel like I'm only a vehicle for their work. As I said, I'm just the cherry on top. And in fact, a lot of those men and women are here today, so I'm going to embarrass them. And I want you all to stand as I call your name: Lori Brocious, Brad Cooper, Todd Vesey, Rich Morales, Steve Parker, Will Johnson, and of course my longtime Chief of Staff, Tina Chin. And of course, I want their spouses to stand too: Jesse, Vanessa, Susan, Reva, Christy. We know they didn't do what they did for me without the support from you all. I miss you guys. I love you. And thank you for serving alongside me. I miss you guys. But I'm also feeling torn standing here, because I know that anything that I've done on this issue pales in comparison to literally every single service member, every caregiver, every veteran, every military spouse and child I have ever met. Because I'm not really doing much compared to them. Yeah, I'm giving speeches, but I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is serving overseas. I'm not managing a household all alone while my loved one is Yes, I've worked with business leaders to get stuff done for this community, but I'm not a sixth grader who has to leave her friends for the fourth time to start yet another new school. So in all honesty, it's a little strange for me to be standing up here alone, particularly since for the vast majority of my life, I was like most Americans, sadly. I had absolutely no idea what the life of a military family member was like. I had no meaningful connection to the military community at all, even though my father had served, but that was before I was born. But that all changed back when my husband was first campaigning for president. And I had the great fortune to be able to sit down with groups of military spouses. And yeah, you better believe their stories blew me away. Not just the emotions of having your loved one in harm's way, but the difficulties of building a career as you're being sent from base to base. The juggling of managing a household all alone. The underlying sense that no one outside of the military community could really understand what you're going through. And I pledged then and there that if my husband was elected, I'd do what I could to support these spouses. And then once we were in the White House, my lens widened even further. That's when I had the privilege and honor to visit bases here at home and abroad. I tried to get as much exposure to our military community as possible, inviting families and experts into our offices so that I could learn more, that we could learn more. We opened up the house as much as we could to those amazing men and women hosting dinners and cookouts. We brought in Big Bird and Doc McStuffins and Kermit the Frog and whoever would come to get our military children laughing and having fun. And every day I spent on this issue, I got a deeper sense of just how much work was left to be done. Learned about the difficulties of translating the skills learned in the military to civilian employers. I learned about the strains on families created by the unseen wounds of war. The struggle for some of our veterans to find stable housing after they had served. And all along the way, as the days and weeks turned into months and years, I developed a greater understanding of the incredible courage and strength inside every single person who wears our nation's uniform and every single family member who steps up to serve alongside them. I saw this with startling clarity whenever I visited with wounded service members and their families. As you all remember, at the beginning of my husband's first term, we were in the midst of 2 wars. And whenever I'd make a trip to Walter Reed, sadly, the beds were almost always full. The Fisher House was almost always packed. I talked with troops who'd lost both legs or an arm or all of the above. I sit with young people whose bodies were badly burned by blasts. I stand at the bedside of troops who'd been unconscious for weeks. A lot of times all I could do was simply be there, to sit in silence with the wife of a young soldier or the father of an airman, smile at each other as we watched wounded warriors' children playing on the floor, doing their homework by their parents' bedside. Maybe we'd hold hands and pray. A lot of times we'd just cry. And the visits, I tell you, never got any easier. But over time, we'd see progress. That was amazing. As the years passed, we started seeing gratefully more empty beds. A young Marine who was in a coma the first time I visited would be sitting up cracking jokes the next time I came by. Time after that, he'd be showing off his new prosthetic. The time after that, thankfully he'd be gone, discharged and back home with his family. And so many of them had met and went on to do amazing things. Many would even compete in warrior games, even the Paralympics. And of course, not every family's arc was that clean, that simple. Not every story had a happy ending. And none of the stories, even the most inspirational ones, were ever easy. I know that I wasn't around for the most difficult moments, when someone got the news that they'd never walk again, or when a slip on a floor set back months of rehab, or when somebody just had enough and wished that for one day things could be easier, back to normal. But it's in those moments, through that unparalleled reserve of grace and strength, that these families would come to accept that the old normal was gone forever, but that there is so much opportunity still ahead. That's why I am so in awe of each and every caregiver I have met, and all those who are here with us today, because you don't just adjust to the new normal. See, your power is that you thrive in it. Through the good days and the bad days and the good months and the bad months. You all have given so much to your loved ones and to this country. You put your careers on hold, or sometimes left careers altogether. You've moved across the country. You've remodeled your homes for your son or daughter's wheelchair. Some of you have juggled it all while still going to work to keep your family afloat, taking care of kids, being there in the middle of the night to help a spouse get in and out of bed. You all are an inspiration. You really are. And my message to you is this: we see you. And that's just the wonderful, beautiful truth that all you want is to be seen. As Senator Dole said, you don't ask for much. You don't want much, you just want people to know you exist. And all of my work I've tried to do is to show you that I see you, and my husband sees you, and millions of Americans see you. Senator Dole sees you. We know what you're going through. We know you're unsung heroes, and we care. You all are the ones who kept us going. You're why my husband signed a law for travel reimbursements and financial stipends for caregivers. You all are why we kept our foot on the gas with joining forces. Whether that meant advocating for the expansion of the DoD's peer-to-peer caregiver roundtables, or pushing businesses to commit to hire or train 1.5 million veterans and military spouses, or calling up governors and state legislators to make changes to the licensing laws in all 50 states so that military spouses could keep building their careers as they moved from base to base. And yet, when I think back to all we were able to accomplish, I'm once again met with a mix of emotions. I am proud of what we've been able to do, but I also feel like our efforts were truly the least we could do for all of you. I don't say this lightly. One of the greatest privileges of my life was meeting you and learning from you and being inspired by you. You all have changed me forever. You've changed the way I see service. You've changed the way I see war. You've changed the way I see this entire country. Whether we simply talk about the values we like to pride ourselves on, values like duty and honor and patriotism, or if we actually live them out. And that's why we've all got to keep up the pressure on those outside this room to keep expanding the country's understanding of support for our caregivers, to make sure caregivers are given legal rights to be involved in healthcare decisions for their loved ones, and to do everything we can to make sure that we're recognizing you all not just as caregivers, but as parents, employees, friends, people with dreams of your own too. You all have given so much, And my hope over these last few years has simply been to help give a little back. And that's why in the end, I simply want to say thank you for changing me and for changing this country day after day, decade after decade. I love you all. Thank you.